Hollow Knight sucked me in early and pulled me in even further the more I played. It's an amazing game with Metroidvania elements and so on and so forth that comes with the genre. Getting to town and the caves is so interesting. You don't know anything about this place, the people, or even the reason why you're here in the first place. You just gotta go find those answers. And that intro, just the animation and the look and the style of the game, it's so good. It's so unique and drab despite how animated and cute it is. It has a depressing yet cute look to it. It could be more gross or bloody or metal. It goes with the cute soft side. The enemies are cute, the characters are cute, the deaths are cute. Maybe not that last one, but they are still cute. But this game has more than just style. The combat is, well, it's sword fighting. It's simple, yet it's so satisfying to swing your sword or nail around. Hitting enemies feels good, getting that sick nail cutting sound and the knockback you give them or get from the nail. You can also live your life as a demolition bug and destroy the landscape around you. I'm serious, when I first played, I could not stop swinging around, destroying everything in my way. It's all good. The best part about the combat is not just about attacking until they all die, spamming it around. Instead, fighting is all about avoiding and then swing when it's vulnerable. And I don't mean from a weak point either. I mean, enemies attack really fast, and while you could take a hit to hit a swing, that made no sense whatsoever, you really do not want to tank a hit, since you can die very easily in the game. I'll get to that later though. No matter the attack, they always do at least 1 unit of health. And with so little health, yeah, only 5 units, yeah, you want to avoid any attack, since health is scarce. Kinda. I'll get to the health system in a bit. This makes tanking fights a no-go. You will play the avoiding the pointy stick, or explosion, or body slam, or shit. This makes combat like a puzzle, figuring out how to avoid attacks and then equally how to attack back safely. And since attacking feels so good and fast, it not only gives a moment of quick attacking, satisfying and rewarding, but also since damage is solid, meaning all attacks do the same damage no matter what, in just a few swings, you can immediately count in your head how many hits it will take to kill whatever is in front of you that you see upon your journey. The best part of the combat flow is the healing mechanics. You have this meter called Soul. When the Soul meter is full, you can use a variety of spells. The most important and helpful one being healing yourself. 1 unit of health per soul drain. It gives a good loop, fighting and then healing if you got hurt. So you would fight, heal, though you will run out of times. And this gives an important flow. If you want soul, you need to fight, but also not get hit, since 1 hit does not equal 1 heal. You get a very tiny amount. So if you want soul, you need to play carefully, very carefully, so you don't undo the heal you're about to do. However, you already play carefully anyway. You're fragile, so it's not much a difference of game flow, unlike some other game. Not only can you heal with soul though, you can also use some attacks. Do decent damage, but never required for you to use. It's strictly for combat use, so you can play however you want while exploring. All these spells, too, use the same amount of soul, so you don't need to worry about picking one based on cost. You just can pick them up based on how they function, or how much damage they do. Bosses are the exception, however. Well, 2 of them, but I'll go over the second one later. Bosses are quite the challenge from your exploration mindset, mainly from the fact that bosses are usually pure hit and run. Unlike exploring where you're constantly healing from your soul, bosses have little room for you to rest up. It's not like it's there, however the time it takes to learn the moves, memorize the pattern and act accordingly, it's a small window of time so you can heal up and get back into a fight without dying. It's a great flow and probably really great fun. Until it isn't, but we'll get into that later. These guys are tough from the normal exploration, and just the right amount of tough too. The attacks are fast and well telegraphed, getting hit is an immediate learning experience, and the satisfying feel of getting hit on them is amazing. The music is amazing too. It gives up the right atmosphere of, oh fuck, I didn't mean to end up here. It's just a wonderful experience. While yes, dying will be somewhat common as bosses are in these kinds of games, it doesn't take much to get back on your feet quickly and try again. Plus, I'll get into why it's more annoying than a punishment. But for now, with so many bosses so different from each other, it's actually quite hard to even remember some. And it's not like they're forgettable, it's just that they're so different from each other and there's so many of them, it's hard to remember which ones could be your favorite or not. Keep at your toes at all times, because even at the start, the bosses are fast. You'll have to react well to win, and that means plenty of deaths. Let's talk about dying. Death in this game is not just a mere paper cut. When you die, you leave something behind. And that something is carrying all your money, so go find it and beat the ever-living soul out of it to gain all your cash back. And your soul too. When you die, you go back to the last bench area with some cracks. Your soul meter is cracked, carrying only half of what you can normally carry, and all the money you had on hand as well. At first, this seems like a reasonable punishment. Having lost stuff for dying and trying to get it back is a classic tale. A classic tale for most games. But there is a problem with this depending on how good you are at exploring. The issue with exploration death is that the soul is where you died, so unless you went really far into your area you shouldn't have been, it's just going to be a long walk to get it back, and you've already probably been there too, so you're familiar with the landscape and danger, and you can probably keep going once you get your soul back. This is the one that's more tedious since you're just trugging old ground to get back to you were, but the other death is what I so-called boss death, which is arguably a bit worse in terms of how important it is. Boss death is, as I said, the soul lingers where you died. And if you died in the boss room, well, actually it's all good. Just quickly get your soul and you're all good. Fight such as normal. Sometimes it even spawns outside the boss trigger, so you can go back and prepare, which is probably what they want you to do, but hey, you know, sometimes it spawns inside. You can just take it and keep fighting. But there is a permanent punishment. If you die while trying to get your soul back, you lose all of your money. But as I said, that's really unlikely. I really only lost my money once, and that was at the beginning of the game. So while death may seem like a punishment, in bosses it's treated as nothing, and while exploring it's treated as an inconvenience. But going into the positives of exploring, man, is it great fun. Just the act of going around and reaching new places is satisfying. There's always something each room has to offer. And this is a Metroidvania after all, so there will be places to mark off for later, once you learn a new move. It's pure bliss. The thrill of knowing, oh, I can go there now. Walking and dashing towards different locations takes way too long, obviously, so thankfully, there are these stack stations that will fast travel to the major areas along the way, with a pretty nice animation to go with it, I might add. With this, traveling doesn't take too long, nor too short. It's just about the right length to get to one place to another. With all this exploring also come secrets, but nothing major at first. Surprisingly, there's not much here. Always just some loose geo here and there. Nothing to extend your health, soul, or any items until way later in the game, which is surprising how they held back. But it's totally worth it for that moment of laying your eyes on one and going, oh, so there are healthing sections to find. Oh no. Going around to find secrets? Good luck. There's no detection for anything, so you have to be really vigilant to find everything. There's a map to find the grubs, but for the mask or extra soul, you're out of luck. There's not much, but you're bound to miss one or two. And if you're not good at marking areas, then you're gonna be a lost cause trying to go out and finding every single room to see if you missed the mask, because other than that, you don't get any point of arrow, direction, or anything like that. Around your search, you could find a face that actually won't murder you on the spot. These guys are always a blast to find and talk to, learning a bit about them and a little history of the area or themselves. Always feel free to get attached to everyone, and frequently visit them, because nothing bad will ever happen to them. I think I pretty much covered the major parts of the game, especially the beginning, and I don't want to talk anything about the middle part especially. I mean, there's definitely is a lot of content here, but I'm gonna go straight to the end because, well, that's how things go, and you know how these things go. I don't need to tell you about how things go. So anyway, end of the game. Going forward to the end of the game, the last areas are perfect. They become more dark and terrifying. The best part about this is that the enemy's attacks ramp up, not in damage, but in just how they behave, making it really hard to navigate and keeping your health up, except maybe those siblings where they do double damage, but they're pretty slow and unless you're a terrible player, you won't have a problem. These last areas are amazing, except the white plus. Okay, look, I like the look of this place and the meaning, but god, do I hate that fucking buzzsaw noise. It's gonna haunt my nightmares forever. Just god. Ugh. Other than that though, it doesn't do much other than lots of platforming, something that doesn't focus from the rest of the game. If only they made it a harder, more longer platforming chat. I take it back. Yeah, this is optional, thankfully, but if I'm gonna be honest here, I actually pretty enjoy the Path of Pain. It's definitely hard and takes a long time. The game never prepares you for this, honestly. But I think it's a great challenge and fun to do. There's no benches in here though, so if you die in here, you're starting over. Thankfully there is a shortcut you can make, but it's still a long way back. And even more thankfully enough, if you get a badge past the White Palace in this area, then you will actually have a much better time since you'll regenerate soul constantly, healing you up every time you have a lost attempt. Is it hard? It's long. It's everything. But it is a nice challenge compared to the rest of the combat the game wants you to do, and it's actually pretty fair in how it wants you to do things. Just try not to die, get that badge, attempt here, you'll be fine. Now let's talk about the final fight. While I do want to talk about the fight specifically, as in the combat, I also want to express my feelings towards this realization. I'm a pretty big feels kind of guy. I love knowing not what I'm getting into, as in I love playing games blind as much as possible. Going into the Hollow Knight fight felt like, while the huge adventure was fun, the entire time, I still didn't know why this character was here. Why was I fighting this guy? He was changed up and everything, so why am I fighting him if he was already doing no harm? But as the action music gets replaced with soft, tragic music, the area filling up with that orange glow from the infested caverns, and seeing the Hollow Knight attack himself with the infection inside him, it slowly dawns on me and comes to realization. Just, oh, that's why I'm here. That's why I'm here. The final part of him taking in the infection and the character you've been playing as being chained up as the Hollow Knight was, this game made me feel this realization of confusion that the same way, that kinda, in a way, Yume Nikki kinda feels like. It never has a direct goal in front of me, it just lets me explore and do these things, never really giving me what I'm actually going to, other than some context clues here and there. But I was clueless the entire way. It never told me directly what I was here to do, and it was certainly surprising to have that happen in the fight. The drastic mood change. Something like that doesn't happen all that often. So, I'm glad for that. The final fight itself is pretty great. It's hard, but in a good way. First you learn the Hollow Knight's sword's attacks, but the attacks change midway during that crucial point, as I explained. And you have to learn some additional moves. That's a good way to make things a bit harder, by throwing something unexpected and having to adapt for it, rather than to give some just stupid move that gives double damage. But with that, my story concludes here. Or does it? There is a better ending you can get. However, and I'm sorry for this, but this is where most of my major complaints start to arrive. While finding the secret seems almost impossible to figure out, it is worth it to talk about the quote-unquote real final boss. Yep, that guy that's always in every Japanese RPG ever, God himself, the Radiant. And this boss sucks. Okay, it's an alright of a fight in terms of story and, well, presentation in the way, but my biggest gripe are these two things. One, double damage all the time. Yes, no matter how much you do, no matter how well you dodge, no matter what happens, you take double damage. Not a suspected attack even. Even touching him gives double damage. Which makes sense because he's a god, but could it be in just a few attacks? It's confusing, but I'll go into more detail of this later. And the second one, you have to fight the Hollow Knight every time you want an attempt. It makes sense with the situation, but when you fail, you're brought to your last save and have to refight the beginning of the Hollow Knight. Why not just put me right beginning to the part of the Radiance? I know it wouldn't make much sense, but come on, man. Just make it a little bit easier. Okay, well, I would say that would be the biggest pass, but man, so kind of sucks. Aside from those two, this fight is pretty cool and satisfying to beat the ever-living hell of this attention-grabbing Twitter account. As the adventure slowly fades away with the conclusion of all conclusions, that is it for Hollow Knight. At least the main base game. There is some other content that is preferably not to be done because of also my complaints, but for the time being, this is it. It's an amazing game with very little low points, and the beginning, middle, and end is really, really amazing. This game has a unique style, has unique combat, unique system. It's definitely not the most original. Definitely not. But it does things so well, it might as well be the king for a little bit. Until someone else comes in to take that throne away.